All right, folks, so let's start with the introduction to this. It's your first anatomy and physiology experience. Basically, anatomy is the study of structure, physiology is the study of function. I want you to remember that function defines the structure. Maybe not the best way to say this, but think of the function and the structure as being connected, and you cannot separate. Okay. Some people study more anatomy. There is American Association of Anatomists, and there are different types of anatomy, like gross anatomy. Liver is here, spleen is there. That's gross anatomy. You can have microscopic anatomy, which describes the structures at the cellular level. Physiology is usually defined either by the object that it studies, like is it a cell, is it an organ, is it an organ system, or animal, or approach. Like you can study human physiology, but in disease. So that would be pathophysiology. Or you can compare the physiology of, say, urinary systems between different animals, so comparative physiology. Does that make sense? You should be able to understand how the structure and the function in a particular example, how they are connected. Like our skin is dry and that creates a perfect barrier. Our heart is muscular and thick because it needs to pump blood. Okay? So now in terms of the levels of organization, these are the levels that I can ask you. It's not a chemistry class. We start with the cell, not even with organelle. I want you to have a very, very clear understanding. We have different cells. Then we have a tissue. We have different set of different tissues. We have an organ. Okay? We have different organs. We have an organ system. And all organ systems effectively comprise the human body. Okay? Now, virtually all physiological processes are regulated through to achieve what's called a homeostasis. So homeo is the same. Stasis is position. Okay? So definition that I give here, I don't really like it, and I want to cross out static and add dynamic equilibrium. There are several ways to think about homeostasis. In some way, it's convenient to think of it as a teeter-totter, okay? When one end goes up, another end goes down, and the response will be to bring it back to the balance. I think that the analogy that works better is a little ball in like a cup, okay? If you put it on the side, the ball's going to go down, right? But it's not going to go to the center. It will eventually go back and forth until it reaches that equilibrium point. And when you push the system out of the equilibrium, the system, quote unquote, attempts to return to it. Does that make sense? So the situation when system returns back to equilibrium, this response is called the negative feedback. Okay? So you can illustrate it this way. Check this out. You have some kind of a stimulus, okay, which causes some kind of a response. And what's important, that response gets rid of the stimulus. Regulation of body temperature is the classic example. When you are hot, you're sweating, sweat evaporates, your body cools down. When you're cold, you're shivering, muscle contraction during shivering releases energy and your body temperature goes up. Makes sense, right? Or you eat a meal, your blood glucose goes up, and insulin produced by pancreas takes the glucose from your blood into the cells. So blood glucose goes down. Does that make sense? So negative feedback is good. Negative feedback maintains homeostasis. Positive feedback is usually associated with some bad outcomes. There are 4 processes that I can think of in the human body that include a positive feedback mechanism. 2 of them are, 3 of them are more or less ones that you can observe. One of them is the childbirth. When the head of a baby pushes on the cervix, the signal, nervous signal from the cervix goes back to the mother's posterior pituitary, which releases oxytocin. Oxytocin stimulates contractions of the smooth muscle of the uterus, which pushes baby even further, even more. So more pressure, more signal, more oxytocin, more pressure, more signal, more oxytocin. So effectively, stimulus results in the response that increases the stimulus, increases the change. 2 other examples that I can think of are platelet activation, basically, bleeding disorder, clot, and ovulation. Specifically, ovulation is regulated through positive feedback. The rest of the ovarian cycle is different. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Now, I want to give an example of a terrible outcome of a positive feedback. So this kind of, provide me with your input. So imagine that somebody loses blood, like serious amount of blood is lost. Okay? So how does it change blood volume? Yeah, so decreases. When your blood volume goes down, how does it change your blood pressure? Yes. How does it? Huh? It goes low. When your pressure goes low, the blood flow to the heart. It stops. Well, it doesn't stop. It slows down. To the heart goes down, right? Yes. Which means, what about delivery of nutrients and oxygen? It goes to your brain. Not yet. I'm talking about the heart. I'm talking about the heart. How does heart receive the same amount of nutrients and oxygen if blood flow goes down? No. We good so far? Which means weaker contractions. That makes sense? Which means even lower blood pressure. So you have 2 changes, and it goes as a vicious cycle. You can see that, right? So this is your positive feedback. You see that positive feedback disrupts homeostasis while negative feedback maintains. The one with the heart? Hold on. I'm asking the one with the heart? No, the whole example you just like this one. Yes. Yeah. That's an example of a positive feedback loop. Okay? The loop that increases the initial stimulus. The loop that decreases the initial stimulus, that's negative feedback. So negative is good, positive is bad. Organ systems. for this first exam, you need to understand, like, generally what they are, what do they do. It's very simple. Like, integumentary system, skin, hair, nails. Skin, okay? Skeletal system, bones, functions, protects and supports, mineral storage, stuff like that, all right? Muscles, movement, heat, nervous system, fast-acting control, receives information and forms responses by activating muscles or glands. Cardiovascular system, pumping blood, okay, transporting oxygen and nutrients. Respiratory system gets oxygen in, takes the carbon dioxide out. Digestive system, I think you understand what it does. Urinary system, so we usually think of it, it excretes stuff from the body. It does, but that's the part of a bigger task for urinary system because it regulates acid-base balance and electrolyte balance. Okay. Endocrine system, long-term hormonal regulation of bodily activities. Also, we just gave an example. You eat, your pancreas produces insulin, okay, or it doesn't if you have diabetes. Lymphatic system and immune system, they protect the body from invaders and get rid of bad cells and such. Are we good so far? Cool. All right, so this part will be very technical, okay? Things to know here. What just happened? Okay, sorry, it's a very funky mouse. Okay, so what you need to know here? You need to know the planes. You should be able to recognize the images. What plane is it? Does that make sense? So like if I show you this isolated image, you think, oh, okay, that's human body. That's divided into the left and right part. That's mid-sagittal plane. Okay? Good? Clear? So let's talk about the planes. Median or mid-sagittal plane divides the body into the left and the right halves, right? It basically goes like some bodies being split from head to toe into right and left halves, okay? Frontal or coronal plane, there's another term, okay? Coronal plane separates, again, splitting from head to toe, but the front and the back. We're going to talk about specific terms. Am I making sense? And then the transverse plane separates the body at the top to the top and the bottom. Are we good so far? So these planes determine what we call a directional terminology. We can explain how different organs or wounds or lesions or whatever you want, how they are positioned relatively to each other. So we're going to start with the mid-sagittal plane. Okay? So anything that is towards the mid-sagittal plane is medial. Away is lateral. Okay, good. Now, here's an example that I'm going to provide. I won't be able to show it to you. It's not going to be on the recording, but I'm going to be talking. Okay, so my wife had a surgery recently. Everything's good. She's healthy. But during the surgery, she had a surgery on her hip. They had to remove a nerve, a relatively small nerve, which runs here. Okay? So lateral cutaneous femoral nerve, lateral, on the outer side. Okay? If that would be, on the inside, it would be medial. And we can use the terminology to describe the position of different body parts. For instance, what's closer to the midline, your eyes or your ears? Your eyes. So your eyes are medial to your ears. Am I making sense? What is farther from the midline? Your shoulders or your collarbones? Your shoulders. So your shoulders are lateral to your collarbones. Does that make sense? Okay. Transverse plane. Whatever is on top is either superior or cranial. Superior or cranial. So for instance, your neck is superior to your chest. You can say that your neck is cranial to your chest. Most people use superior and inferior. Okay? Clear? And in the same fashion, you can say, yes, your neck is superior to your chest, but your abdomen is inferior to your chest. Question so far? When you need to ask a question, if it's a quick one, don't raise your hand, just ask. Okay, it's going to make the process much faster. Okay, don't just ask. Okay, coronal or frontal plane. So whatever is in the front is dorsal, whatever's in the front is ventral or anterior. I'm so used to not using notes. Okay, so if it's in like your forehead, okay, your sternum is anterior or ventral to your spine. Make sense? Good? Or your anus is posterior or dorsal to your genitalia. Am I making sense? Okay, perfect. Oblique planes don't have any terminology associated with it. This point of attachment, we use it only for the limbs. Okay? Arms and legs. If something is closer to the point of attachment, it's proximal. Farther, distal. Your elbow is what? Your elbow to your wrist is what? Your elbow is proximal to your wrist because it's closer. Your ankle is distal to your knee. Understood? Okay. Now, few more kind of weird terms. So mid-sagittal plane has a couple more associated with it. Intermediate, in between. Now remember, those terms aren't mutually exclusive. Let me explain. Let's think about human mouth and human ears. What's closer to the midline? Mouth. Is mouth medial to ears? Yes. What's lower, mouth or ears? So mouth is inferior to the ears. Both answers are correct. When I write questions, because questions like this establish the relationship, directional relationship between two body parts, pretty much. When I ask questions like that, I make sure that, like, if it's mouth and ears, there's only one answer. Like, I'm not going to put both inferior and medial as two different answers, because that would be, or I would count them both correct. Sounds good? Okay, perfect. So intermediate, in between, or you can say medial. Ipsilateral, contralateral. It's pretty important when we talk about reflexes. Ipsilateral are on the same side. Your right arm and right leg are ipsilateral. Your arms are contralateral to each other. Superficial versus deep. Closer to the surface of the body, farther from the surface of the body. Those are probably the most obscure terms. I try to use them only in, like, when there is no possible misinterpretation. Like, if you would ask me, how would you categorize heart to the lungs? I would not use superficial and deep. If you would ask me, how would you categorize the rib cage and the lungs? Lungs are deep to rib cage. They farther from the surface. That's unequivocal. Make sense? Okay. Section, just understand the concept. Cross-section, longitudinal section. It can become a little bit contentious when we talk about the organs that are almost spherical. There aren't too many, but if we, let's say, talk about like aorta, it's a long tube. You cut it across, it's cross-section. You cut it along, it's a longitudinal section. Does that make sense? So, this is the reference picture. On the homework, there's an image of that dude. And there's a list of the body regions that I want you to know. I think it's above the picture. So I'm trying my best to not give you any surprises. What I mean by that is, you see that image in the slides, you see that image in, say again? The study guide, the homework. Yeah, you see that image in the homework, that image will be on the exam.
So you need to know this whole thing?
Say again?
We need to know this whole thing?
So, can you show it to everybody again? So, on top of the, yes, well, okay. I told you, do you need to? No. For what I care, you can put a 4-year-old, just tell them, do the squiggly lines. That's fine. Okay? But it's your, like, it is a tool. Okay? Okay? Now, listen, hang on. The images that you will see on the exams are the images from the notes and or from the study guide. Moreover, if there is an image in the notes that is not in the homework, it's not on the exam. Only stuff from the study guide, only the stuff from that packet, okay? So, I'm not going to talk about this slide at all. This is your reference. You have the dude, and you have the list on top. If the term is not in the list, it's not on the exam. Make sense? Okay. Body cavities. Again, I think you can read this. It can be a little confusing in terms of that we start with big chapters, like we have dorsal and ventral. And then dorsal is divided into cranial and vertebral. Ventral is divided into thoracic and abdominopelvic. Then thoracic is divided into mediastinum, two pleuris, and pericardium. Okay? And abdominopelvic divided into abdominal and pelvic. Does that make sense to you all? So I will 100% show you this image, and you will need to identify the cavity. For pleural cavities, what the heck? For pleural cavities, please. For pleural cavities, the ones, yeah. That's not what I meant exactly, but okay. I want a different color. That'll do. Just a little thinner. Because it's so bright, I just don't think it's... Okay. Good. So, does that make sense? You need to know, and that sounds insurmountable, but it's very easy. What is located, which organs are in each cavity? Okay, cranial cavity. Any questions? Yes, it's your brain. Vertebral cavity, spinal cord, cardiac, pericardium, heart, pleural, lungs. Don't worry about mediastinum at all. Be able to identify it. Organs of mediastinum, no. Now, hear me out. Pelvic cavity, urinary bladder, very last portion of intestines, and reproductive organs. Now, anything that is not a brain, not a spinal cord, not heart, not pleura, not urinary bladder, and a bit of intestine, everything else is in the abdominal cavity. So by exclusion, it's much easier to memorize. Am I making sense? Okay, so know that. Abdominal pelvic regions. Abdominal cavity is pretty large, a lot of organs. So you should be able to describe, for instance, pain, location of pain. Make sense? For example, if somebody has cholecystitis, the inflammation of the gallbladder, they usually describe it as acute pain in the right hypochondriac region. Okay? So you need to, okay, this is where the pain is. So, regions, there are 9 of them. It kind of makes sense. Umbilicus is your belly button. So umbilical, epigastric, hypogastric. Stomach pain is around umbilical region, so epigastric will be above. Hypogastric below. Hypo is below, okay? Hypochondriac, chondros, refers to, That's fine. Chondros refers to cartilage. Right about here, you have a huge costal cartilage that connects your ribs to your sternum, okay? Iliac, these parts of the human body, like the bones in the hip, these parts are called ilium, okay? Good? This is memorization, folks. You will see that image. I will ask you. Have a general idea what is, like, don't try to convince me that urinary bladder in the left hypochondriac region. Okay? Just, again, common sense. Okay? Like, am I going to be asking you to distinguish between the liver and the gallbladder? No, they're both in right hypochondriac, but also a chunk of liver in the epigastric. So, like, where is liver? The answer is going to be pretty obvious. Quadrants aren't even worth my mention. I'm dead serious. Because you can tell left, right, upper, lower. Okay, yeah. All right, body membranes. We have 3 types of membranes. First type is cutaneous. Skin. Period. Just skin. Okay? Honestly, my favorite are mucosal membranes, because this is where most fun happens. Mucosal membranes, now hear me out, and we're going to go through this together. They cover, and it's kind of, give you, but mucosal membranes cover bodily surfaces that are exposed to the outside world, but aren't skin. Give me an example. Obviously, we have some there. Huh? Mouth, yes. Okay, just mouth, just nasal cavity. Okay, very good for eyes, because these are sort of outliers. They are just like, they weird, but they're up there. And there is a mucosal membrane called conjunctiva. But just mouth, or nose, lungs, nose and lungs form what system? There you go. Your entire respiratory system is covered with mucosal membrane. Mouth, that's it? Or we gotta keep going? So you diving into which system? There you go. Think of it.
Pretty much all this, right? All the thoracic cavity.
Well, yeah, organs of thoracic cavity. Again, I suggest you think of it in a different fashion. If you think about respiratory system, it's like we have a weirdly shaped sac in our body that air goes in and out. If you think about digestive system, it's a hole. I mean, starts at the mouth, ends at the anus. No, seriously. Okay. One thing that, like, sometimes I do dead jokes, But when we talk about physiology, there is nothing sort of like, it's fine. We talk about everything. We talk about every organ, you know? Yeah, we are not, well, not in this course, but we're going to talk about, well, in ANP2, you're going to talk about defecation and urination, and it's normal processes, okay? That's not so. Eyes, and put eyes here. Respiratory, digestive. There's one more system. Which organs are exposed to the outside world?
Our skin?
That's cutaneous. That's not mucosal membrane. Yeah, reproductive system. Yeah. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. And like kidneys, for example, they aren't exposed. Nothing is supposed to go into the urethra. Okay, like and up. It's not supposed to be there. Serous membranes. These are kind of weirdos. So, okay, let me blow it up. So this is obviously the heart, right? The heart is located in the space that we call pericardial cavity. What the hell? It's so weird and wonky. Okay, you good? Now, if you will put, have you ever held a heart? Yeah, not necessarily human heart. If you held human heart, tell me more. But any heart. Well, mammalian heart.
Like a model?
No, like bovine heart, pig
Like
heart.
something you dissect.
Huh?
Like something you would dissect?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, yeah. It's pretty gentle on the outside. And if you think about the cavity, it's pretty rough. So if you put an organ in a cavity, you need to prevent it from rubbing against that organ, against that cavity, or other organs, for example. So this is the purpose of serous membranes. So here's an example of a serous membrane. The layer that I cover right now, do you see that? The one that is attached to the heart. Okay? So that layer, actually, let me do something cool and use the full potential of that amazing app. No, I cannot use the full potential because this app does not want to cooperate.
That's the visceral
So that's visceral, yes.
pericardium.
That's visceral pericardium. You're absolutely correct. Okay? And then the membrane also lines up the walls of the cavity. And that's parietal pericardium. Okay? So there are effectively three membranes. Okay? So you have pericardium, you have pleura, and you have peritoneum. So pleura, visceral pleura, covers lungs. Peritoneal pleura covers pleural cavity. Visceral pericardium covers the heart. Peritoneal pericardium covers pericardial cavity. Okay? And parietal pleura, yes. And peritoneal cavity, parietal peritoneum covers the organs. Visceral forms the cavity. So, few words. First of all, clinical relevance. Have you heard the term pleuritis or pericarditis? It's inflammation. Something gets there, fluid accumulates. If you have inflammation and fluid accumulation in the space between the heart and the pericardial cavity, the walls of the cavity, called cardiac tamponade. Okay, heart cannot beat properly. If you have accumulation of liquid in pleural cavity, the lung can collapse, what we call pneumothorax. Okay, that makes sense. Now, peritoneum is like seriously important. Well, they're all important, but if you go, especially in the nursing, probably going to see patients with peritonitis. So, not all organs in the abdomen are within peritoneal cavity. There are some, like kidneys, that sit behind. Make sense? You don't need to know which ones. Am I clear? Awesome. Why peritonitis is important? Let's say we have a lot of bacteria in our guts, especially in the structure called cecum, which is located, and I'm going to scroll up, in the right iliac region. And this cecum has a tiny little extension that looks like a worm. It's called vermiform appendix. And if it gets inflamed and then ruptures, the content of that appendix with a bunch of bacteria spills into the peritoneal cavity.
That's why people gotta get their appendix removed.
Well, they better get the appendix removed before it ruptures.
Right. Yeah.
Another cause of peritoneum can be any penetrating wound, especially in large intestine. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, serous membranes, as you can see, cover parts of the organs that are not exposed to outside world. If you think about the lungs, for example, the visceral pleura covers the lung, but it doesn't interact with air. Am I making sense? Okay, good. And yes, serous membranes produce fluid that lubricates the organs pretty much. Clear? Okay, excellent.